I'm alright, man. I'm alright. How you doing?
And you caught me cooking again.
Yeah, yeah, we enjoyed it last
You're
time.
doing this on purpose, aren't you?
Yeah, I am. I enjoy it.
You just want to get some recipes out of me.
Absolutely. I've only. I don't know if the shit is not. I just learned how to cook that in the last 6 months. Yes, don't judge. It's a long story, but yes. Yeah, it's been. The word that we wanted to use is interesting, because it can be translated in very many different ways.
I will post a picture of your paella at some point.
Oh, I don't know what you're talking about. God, you're killing my street cred there, Dave. I'm telling you. Oh, brilliant. So, Dave, we are on the second set now of our the second pair of the workshops that are going to be assessed, and it's regarding the resource-based view. And I just need you to take it from the top with us, Dave.
Okay. Do you mind if I start cooking?
Yeah, go ahead, go ahead. I'm gonna get some donuts. Go ahead.
Tonight I'm cooking chicken curry. So, do you like
All
chicken
right.
curry?
I love chicken curry.
Oh,
Yeah, I can eat that all day.
Well, let's start from the top there. So, yeah, so the second of these perspectives about where does sustainable competitive advantage come from? So, we're moving away from the world of Michael Porter and choice and all about aligning of activities over to the world where they say Porter's wrong, that assumption about it being activities is wrong. Actually, real sustainable competitive advantage comes from possessing, owning some resources that are unique. So it only takes a few of these resources, but they allow you to do something for customers or other stakeholders that others can't do. So the source of the advantage comes from those resources you own as a business, you possess as a business. Okay, so that's the basic premise, underlying assumption going on here. And they say, well, these resources, they have to be valuable. So they've got to provide an advantage, and they've got to be rare. You know, if everyone has one of these resources, well, you can't have competitive advantage, because if everyone's got it, well, they can do the same thing you can. Okay, so these resources have to be valuable, they have to be rare. But if you've got something that others haven't, and that gives you an advantage, what are all your competitors going to try to do? They're going to try to imitate you, they try to get hold of the same thing. So to get sustainable competitive advantage, those resources have to be what the economists call immobile. So they need to be uncopyable or unobtainable. Otherwise, well, they'll quickly copy you. Now, that doesn't mean to say that resources which are just valuable and rare, you only one has it, aren't good to have, because that gives you temporary advantage, but you've got to expect others to quickly get hold of them. We can sort of demonstrate this with what I'm cooking tonight, actually, because chicken curry is not really about any involved process. It's about the ingredients. Anyway, you just chuck them all together and you make a curry. But you've got to have the ingredients to start with. So I've obviously got some, you like chicken curry. Could you make chicken curry tonight?
What's the recipe then?
So do you have some chicken?
In the fridge.
In the fridge,
Yes.
Okay, so I've got some diced up chicken here. So that's valuable because it's going to help you make chicken curry. But it's not rare. You've got some chicken, you could quite easily, so I haven't got an advantage over you with chicken curry. Have you got some onions?
I have onions, yes.
Yeah, okay.
But
I've got a large chopped up onion here that I need it to make chicken curry, but again, it's not rare. You've got, so I'm just going to put the onions on. I've got in this bowl, I've got a bit of oil. So I'm just going to put the onions on to fry for a bit and let that go. So I've got some onions which I've now got on the heat. And what else have I got? I've got some celery. Have you got some celery in your house?
I usually do, but I don't currently.
Ah.
Just for the
It's not. It's valuable. It's good to bulk out the curry. It's not absolutely necessary to make a chicken curry, so it doesn't give me an advantage over you on that.
so I could get it easily.
I'm also going to put some sliced up peppers in there. Well, in the middle of lockdown, you can't just nip out now and get some. So I've got some
Yeah.
peppers.
So okay. Yeah.
I'm going to cheat a bit. I'm going to use some garlic puree. Have you got some garlic?
I've got those. Yeah. I've got similar to what you have. It's not puree. It's like some dried version.
Okay, so you've got a substitutable resource for this
I
one.
have a substitutable resource. Yeah. I've got something that does a similar thing.
Yeah, but so far I haven't got an advantage over you tonight in making chicken curry. You could do the same thing that I'm doing, but I do have a load of spices. So I've also got some chili powder. I'm sure you've got some chili powder in the house.
Yeah. I have spices.
And I've got a load of other spices. I've got some ground turmeric, some ground cumin, garam masala, ground coriander, ginger, and some fennel seeds.
I think I have. I couldn't tell you. Here's the thing, Dave. I feel like I have all those tangibles, I believe.
So on what we're looking at the moment, we have a lot of resources which aren't unique to me here. You've got a lot of these.
Yes.
So if you wanted to make chicken curry, you could do the same thing. There's nothing that's giving me an advantage over you in terms of making chicken curry tonight. What I do have though is some special chicken sauce. Now, we do find with resources that they're more difficult to copy when they're bundles of resources. So rather than individual resources, some fennel seeds, you can easily get hold of that. Theorists like Hal and Hamill suggest that if it is a bundle, a competency, so a bundle of resources that is unique to the firm, then that's more difficult to copy than single resources. Now, I make my own chicken stock. So a few weeks ago I roasted a chicken, and then when that's finished I put all the remains of it into a saucepan, added an onion, added some herbs, boiled it up for hours, and made proper chicken stock. So you say that chicken stock is like a competency, and I think my chicken stock is quite good. Do you have some chicken stock in the house at the moment?
I've got the ready-made one. I don't have
It's
that.
ready-made, so it's not the same. So I could argue that due to this competency, this bundle of resources, I have an advantage over you in terms of making a better chicken curry.
I guess you also have the knowledge, Dave. I guess a resource.
I do. I should actually turn the camera off at this point so you can't get the knowledge about how to make chicken curry.
You know what I mean?
So you can't copy me, but hey, I'm being generous tonight. I'm showing you how to cook another meal.
So you're too kind. You're too kind.
Hang on, just let me put the chicken in now. Put the chicken in with the onions.
Just to surmise, I guess what you're saying is, first of all, Barney's got a very different perspective. It's about us looking internally to what we own, and I notice you're talking about a very different language there. You're no longer saying activities. You're talking about resource in terms of things that a company owns, and you're saying we could get advantage just by owning the right thing. And you mentioned a few sort of attributes of that. You said it has to be rare, as if not anyone can have it, and it has to be, you used the word immobile, or not being able to be copied. And you said, hopefully, if some of the resources are weak, as in not everyone else has got it.
Yeah, if you think about it, it's straightforward. Yeah, saying, well, that resource has to mean that you can grab an opportunity or defend against a threat, which Barney talks about. but it's valuable for some reason. So, by the way I like to think it, well, customers will come to you because of what you can do, because you have that resource. Well, it must mean that if you've got a competitive advantage, it's going to come from something in that space. But if everyone's got the same resources, well, you can't have competitive advantage. So, of course, that resource has to be unique to you, or at least rare. So, not too many other competitors have it. If everyone got it, well, no advantage. But if that resource is meaning that you are attracting customers, what's everyone else want to do? If they don't want to get held of the same thing, it may then take them a while to get it, but unless it is immobile, so unless it's they can build it themselves, or they can go and buy it from somewhere else, or they can steal it from you, then they will do the same thing. So it's got to be difficult for them to get hold of. And if it's difficult for them to get hold of, then it's starting to look like you've got a sustainable competitive advantage. So Barney talks about they can't get hold of it for the foreseeable future. This is something that differentiates this from dynamic capabilities, which we'll talk about next week, where for them it's more dynamic view. But for Barney, once you've got this thing, well, others have given up trying to get hold of it.
So Dave, you talked about, you used another word there when you were making up your chicken stock there, because you went through the, do you have chicken, do you have the celery, you have the peppers, you have the garlic, you have the onions, he's going through everything what we own, and then you said, wow, actually I have a competency. So I want, I guess, get some crystal clear when you use the word competency, how is that different from the word resource?
So a competency, the way we define it, is it's a bundle of resources that are integrated together. So it's not a collection of separate resources. These are resources that work very close together. So they give, especially say they give synergy by working together. So the sum of the whole is worth more than the sum of the parts. Because they work better together, what a competitor can't do is just come and take the bits, or copy the bits, and get the same thing. It has to be able to copy the whole of it with all both the components that make up that competency, the resources themselves, and also the knowledge of how it works together. So, as you can imagine, that's far more difficult to copy than just a single resource would be.
Okay. So that's why you mentioned it in the chicken stock example. You went out and actually made chicken stock in your own particular recipe. You had to have the know-how, you had to have the different ingredients, and you mixed up yourself as a precursor to making chicken curry. So you had the know-how and you mixed up the ingredients with your own, I guess, experience and knowledge, as it were, and to have this competency. So competency is we think of it as it's conceptual, right? It's not something you can hold. It's the bundle of resources coming.
You can hold it. I'm holding chicken stock. It's still a resource. But it's a bundle of things all working together, which some of them will be tangible, some of them will be intangible. So in that competency, the resources that made it happen come together. It's the leftover chicken, it's the onions, it's the spices, the things I put into it, coming together and being closely bound into one competency. But it's still a resource. So the academics do argue about, well, is it the resource or is it the capability of putting it together? But hey, let them argue. At the end of the day, it's a bundle of resources working together that you can't pull apart easily. So that's what competency is. Now, also demonstrate actually something else in that competency, which is quite useful. Now, Barney says that to identify or test whether or not competencies and resources give you sustainable competitive advantage, you have to go through something called the Bryro Test. Well, Bryro is quite straightforward. It's simply that you have each competency. You have to do it for each competency. You can't just do it one for the whole organisation. You have to do it for each competency. First, that competency has to be: is it valuable? Now, is it attracting customers to come to you rather than go to someone else?
Okay.
That's the V in Bryro.
So it's VRIO. Okay.
Yeah. Then R is for rare. So you've got evidence that others don't have the same thing.
Okay.
Then the I in Bryro is inimitable. And that's just a long word to say you can't copy it or substitute it with something else.
Okay.
And then and I'll come back to the I because it's the most important bit actually in the testing of it. And then the last thing, the O, is about organisation. And organisation is simply that it's the company that owns that competency that gets the value. So I will get to eat the chicken curry. So I get the benefit. I get the benefit of it.
So can we apply that to your chicken stock example? So is it valuable? It's valuable. I think people would like it. Is it rare? I'd say in this scenario, yes, it's rare because I ain't got it.
Rare at the moment, although I'm sure others can make just as good chicken stock, but at the moment.
Yeah, but it's not in my house, so it's rare. Is it hard to copy? Inimitable? Yes.
Well, let's come back to inimitable because we can delve deeper into that. And then,
Okay, cool. And then organisation. Well, I don't own it. You own it. So.
You don't know. So I get to eat it. So yes, the organiser. I get the benefit of it.
So just to clarify there, Dave. So we've got here an organisation. They have a bunch of resources, and then from those resources we derive, I guess, some competencies.
So an organisation will have lots and lots of resources.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And only some of those will be
Yeah.
able to give competitive advantage. Now, in some cases, those resources are bound together into competencies.
Yeah.
And it's more likely that those competencies will be the source of competitive advantage. So what you have to do is you have to brainstorm what competencies are likely to give you competitive advantage, and then you take each of those and you put them through this Bryro test. Now, in this case, we've got one competency. It's peers. The rest is resources, chicken stock. So we'll put the chicken stock through the Bryro test, and as you say, it's valuable. Yep, it helps me make hopefully good chicken curry.
Yeah.
Is it rare? Well, at the moment, yes.
Yeah, it's not in my house. Yep.
We'll come back to inimitable in a moment. And then, do I get the value out of using the chicken stock to make curry? Yeah, I get to eat the chicken curry. So yes, the O's.
Okay. Really important.
Let's go back to the I, because Barney talks about 3 reasons why a competency or resource will be inimitable.
Okay.
And it's not, he doesn't say that because it's expensive. He doesn't say that. So that's because, if you think about it, if this resource really is giving you competitive advantage, and therefore will attract lots of customers and mean you make money out of it, well, you're very likely to be able to get the funding to be able to buy that or develop that competency. So just being expensive is not going to be a reason why something is inimitable.
Yeah.
So Barney talks about these 3 reasons that might mean it is. The first one he talks about historic circumstances. And that means that sometime in the past, conditions existed that meant you could acquire that resource then, but subsequently the conditions have changed and you can no longer get hold of them. So you could say the chicken stock, because several weeks ago I roasted a chicken and I had the remains of a chicken, I was able to, at that point, I could make chicken stock. But I couldn't do that. I couldn't do that today because I don't have a remains of a roasted chicken. So it was a historic circumstance meant that I had. Now, the fact that I could go and get another chicken, well, in the future I could, but it demonstrates the point. The second reason Barney says means that a competency will be difficult to copy is social complexity. So this just means that the competency involves the close working together of people, either inside the organisation or between organisations. So perhaps with a key customer that you've worked with for years and years and years, and you know each other, you trust each other, personal relationships have developed, and it'd be very difficult, therefore, for that customer to go and switch to another provider. So that social complexity is evident in that competency. And then the third reason is what he calls, in his 1991 paper, he talks about causal ambiguity. In his 1995 paper, he talks about numerous small decisions. And this just means that the competency is so complicated, made of so many small parts, that for a competitor to try to work out how it fits together would be impossible. And indeed, often, even the people working in the organisation don't really understand how it fits together. And so if you headhunted one of them, they couldn't tell you how it worked either. So what you're looking for is there evidence of one or more of those reasons why it's difficult to copy that competency? Now, as we say in chicken stock, well, historic circumstances at the moment. Social complexity, no social complexity. Causal ambiguity, well no, it's made up of remains of an old chicken, it's onions, some herbs, etc.
The question would be, he's giving you possibilities why it's inimitable, or does he emphatically say that these are the three?
He says that those are the three reasons. And they're pretty broad when you think about it. It's sort of how do you interpret that into the situation. And you've got to be quite careful on certain things. You know, there's an assumption around, well, one is it's very expensive, though it's difficult to copy. Well, that's not a reason why it's long-term going to be difficult to copy. A lot of people talk about patents as being a reason why something's difficult to copy. But patents run out. And there's a whole industry around getting around patents by companies. Sony Canon was extremely good at getting around other people's patents, not breaking the patent, finding other ways to do the same thing. So you're going very, remember, we're looking in Barney's eyes where the advantage is going to last for the foreseeable future. Almost competitors have given up trying to copy you because they can't. So we're applying quite a hard test.
Okay.
But as I say,
So,
temporary competitive advantage, knowing you have temporary competitive advantage is just as useful for making strategic decisions as knowing if you've got sustainable competitive advantage. Because you know at some point that advantage is going to come to an end. And so you need to be thinking about what actually you're going to be doing next. So, and all these techniques we're talking about, a negative result is just as important as a positive result.
okay.
So, okay then, Dave, I'm going to ask you some dumb questions here, just for my clarity. So, Barney looks...
I'm just going to start adding some of these spices in here. You notice I'm just slapping all this stuff in. I'm not really making any process of this. There's no complexity in the process going on here.
It's just the fact that he's just adding it to the mix.
I'm just adding it in. So it's not like porter. It's absolutely essential. I line everything up together in my activities.
Yeah. So do you think that in terms of the philosophy of Barney is very different in terms of its language? He just talks about if the company owns it. And so if I was to sort of apply Barney in a company, I would literally just sort of list all the resources that they have to begin with, and then go, okay, cool, well, which one of these is valuable, as it were, and then I go through the sort of apply the Barney test, as it were. So Barney is saying that if a resource or a bundle of resource, which we're calling a competency, if they sort of meet the criteria that Barney has set out, and that then allows the company to have a sustainable competitive advantage. That's the thing. Is that correct, Dave?
Mostly, yes. The one thing that
where's the nuance in what I said?
The one thing I would advise, when you say you list out all the resources in an organisation, you can do it that way. And many textbooks talk about doing it in that manner. And in fact, often they say, well, make use of Porter's value chain and think about all the rather than putting activities as we did in the strategy as choice units, you put resources into it. But believe me, mapping every single resource in an organisation is like sieving the ocean. There are so many resources, and then you have the next problem, well, how do they fit together? So that, what I call bottom-up route to finding competencies, is very slow and very difficult.
Okay.
My advice is to come at it the other way. To start by saying, well, why are customers coming to this business? Why are they choosing that firm? What's its strategic capability that allows it to do that job for those customers?
Okay.
And then brainstorm, right, what competencies does it have that allows it to do that job for customers? And you'll find that they'll have, may have competencies which are in the technical expertise of the business. Well, you remember when we did the Canon, we used to do Canon as a case study. You know, its technical capability around plain paper copying, you know, which was it was a competency of expertise, people's know-how, tangible plant and machinery, a whole raft of stuff which was integrated together into this, and there were patents in there as resources. But it was a competency of that sort of what the firm's expertise was in. You then have competencies which are in the interface to the market, so between the firm and its customers. So it might be its servicing field force.
Marketing or merchandises or whatever.
Be specific. Don't just say marketing. You have to be specific. You know, if you think about it, all firms have some form of marketing capability.
What
So
exactly?
it can't be unique. You've got to be specific about what you mean here. And actually, in your brainstorming, you do find you're trying to pitch these at the right level. So if you go too broad into, we've got marketing competency. Well, everyone's got a marketing competency, so it hasn't got a hope of being rare. Otherwise, you might go the other way. You might go the other way and say, well, we've got this widget, but it's such a small thing relative to the size of the organisation that it's not going to give us. So what you're trying to do is find that just right position of the right size. It's specific enough. It's definitely a competency. And the other way is integrating between that expertise and the market. So things like Toyota's manufacturing system would be a integrating competency. But try to brainstorm 4 or 5 of these, and then you're going to put them through the Bryro test. So you're not just accepting them from your brainstorm, you're then testing them. So then you'll really work out which ones are the...
Okay, you're applying the Bryro test to the competency where the competitive advantage lies, which is probably the key point. We're not necessarily applying it to the minutiae.
No, you do see, if you go, you see a lot of rubbish on the internet on the application of the RBB test, and you see some firms list out 50 odd what they think of resources. Often half of them aren't even resources, they're activities. And then they say, well, we've got all these wonderful competencies that can advantage. Complete rubbish. To something really give you sustainable advantage. Even the biggest firms are only going to have 3, 4, sometimes, if they're really lucky, 5 of these things. So you are looking for those things that really, truly drive competitive advantage.
Okay, Dave, I'm going to ask you a different question now, because I think you just touched upon it there. We're talking now about Barney's world, about just owning resources that a company owns, right? Are we not allowed to talk about activities in this module?
Yeah.
I mean, so we just got to absolutely ignore all of that?
Yep. Remember, you're not just doing one analysis in your strategy process. You know, if we're following the route we're doing the module, you've already done your porter analysis, and so you've looked at the activities, and you've got the insight from that. Yeah, saying thanks, Mike. Go away.
Yeah.
Or stronger. Come on, Jay, Barney, Proud and Hamill, come and help me have a look at it from a different perspective here. Yeah, so they're saying, no, it's about resources. So we stick with looking at resources in this view. And that's really important.
So Jay Barney, he doesn't look at the market at all as a way to get a competitive advantage. His main sort of premise is look at what we own, what we as a company have.
Looking for the competencies, which are bundles of resources.
We're looking for the companies which are
bundles of resources that exist in this firm.
But let's just keep the competencies there, and then we apply the test. And if it passes this test, it has a sustainable competitive advantage.
If it passes all elements of the Bryro Test, yes. If it passes just the first two, it's a temporary competitive advantage.
Great. So it gives an advantage, which is useful, but we are also aware that that's not gonna.
But that then drives your decisions. So what you then do is say, right, well, we have this unique competency. We're currently deploying it in this market, but actually we can deploy that competency into a multitude of different market segments. Where can we get the best value out of it? So rather than Porter saying we've got to choose your market position and focus on that and then align everything to it, what the resource guys are saying is, well yeah, we've got the competency, we can do that, we can do that, we can do that.
All right, let's let me just throw a company at you. Let's talk about Apple. If we're gonna just use Jay Barney's sort of ideas to evaluate the company Apple, which is a well-known company, what competency would we sort of brainstorm?
Well,
I mean, I'm just top of my head.
Do you have an Apple, or do you have a desire for an Apple?
I have a desire for Apple. I don't have.
Okay. As a customer, potential customer, why would you choose Apple rather than another brand of computer?
Two things probably. One is the user interface. I mean, Apple are very innovative in how the interaction, that software interaction has been. Lots of people are companies. They're very, very good at the user interface. They're the ones who make people throw away their manuals. That all the gadgets used to come with manuals before. Now, as soon as you get out of the box, it's so intuitive, and they're pioneers in that. That's one. The other one is probably because of the brand. Like Apple, they charge lots of money, but.
Is there anything else? It's look. How does it look?
It's tech savvy. It's people who want that pleasing latest gadget stuff all the time. So those are my feelings today. What are you going to do with those?
Apple's strategic capability is to deliver that to you if you're a customer. Right. So in terms of what competencies do they own to deliver that? Well, there is something. I'm not a computer expert, but there must be some competency around this integration of their different systems together. So they've got competency in that place. I don't talk about whole eco, but that competency to make all these things work together. Now, you have to drill into that and say, well, for a normal computer manufacturer, well, is that normal? So you have to drill down a bit deeper to find out what really is unique about Apple in doing that. But not go right down into the chips or whatever, because they wouldn't give you an advantage. Then the brand, the brand is a market-based competency. Is that relationship it has and image it has with its customers, so that's a competency. And then clearly there's something in their ability to design computers as well. So there's a competency of design or computer design. Again, you have to pitch the right level. So just quickly, we're saying we think we have to define the bit better than we have, but there's three competencies.
Right, so let's apply the Bryro test to this then.
So we already know that these competencies are valuable because these are customers want what they provide. So that we going top down rather than bottom up. We already know if they're valuable or not because we wouldn't have brainstormed otherwise.
Exactly. Yeah, that's good. That's really good. All right.
So are they rare? So that integration of its systems together. Well, I could imagine that there are other computer experts out there who could make the same thing happen. It might be difficult, it might take time, but so it might be rare at the moment, but it is quite possible that someone else would copy it. And I don't see any historic circumstances why someone shouldn't copy it. Yeah, they haven't got all the brainy people in the world who build computers.
Yeah, locked up in there, no.
Or they could go and poach some of Apple's. If they really want to copy it, poach some of Apple's people to do it for them. Social complexity? Well, no. Causal ambiguity? Doubt it. Probably well know what they do. I mean, you can take apart what they do to see what they actually do. So that one probably gives you temporary competitive advantage. In terms of that ability around design, again, you could probably go down the same route. In terms of you could get designers to come in.
You could get designers to come in.
Now, that brand. Now, here, valuable, obviously, rare. Well, what computer company would others name? IBM, everyone would name, but they don't make personal computers anymore. Who else would you name? They're all much for muchness. So it's probably rare to have a brand like that in the computer sector.
It is,
Is it inimitable? Well, there is social complexity going on there between Apple customers and their brand.
They
really buy into this imagery or this type. Historic circumstances. You could say with the history of Steve Jobs and the history of Apple, you could say, well, there's historic circumstances, they built that brand in a certain time and it still resonates in that space. Probably not, there's probably not causal ambiguity going on. So you could possibly make a case for there to be some sustainability about the Apple brand. You could, of course, argue that, well, it's substitutable with a different brand, for different people.
But Dave, I believe if Apple came out with socks tomorrow and they put their logo on socks, people will buy those socks. I swear to you.
But there are other brands that have that similar appeal who could move into computing if they really wanted to.
Yeah. So okay, that's interesting. If they but I don't think they could compete.
Well, we've just said that the competencies. It might take a lot of time. So it might take decades, but if you really wanted to, we know the first two competencies are imitable.
Temporary.
You could Apple has temporary competitive advantage, and so just needs to reinventing to a degree. It takes time. So that temporary advantage, it's not overnight, but it's not the foreseeable future. We could envisage a future where it was imitated.
Interesting.
Right. So we can say Apple's sustainable competitive advantage is its relationship with its brand. It has with its customers.
I would probably put it in terms of it's got temporary advantages with the brand probably more sustainable. I'd put that in because strictly I could see that being substituted by another brand. But that's good. We know Apple.
It's a good way to, and I can see your logic about looking at actually the strategic, going sort of reverse engineering it, going from the top down rather than from the bottom up.
You get lost in it. Just imagine trying to map all of Apple.
So you could do from the bottom up, but it'll take you a very long time. You could sort of put it into, if you had.
And once you've got this map of all the resources, which ones fit together to create your competency? No, it's hard. Believe me, I've tried to do it, and it's hard.
It's fabulous. No, thank you, Dave. That's all good. I hope your chicken curry tastes as good as mine, which doesn't exist yet. But I'll make one.
Well, you see that it's now simmering away. It needs to simmer away for about 25 minutes. And see if hopefully it thickens. If it doesn't thicken, sometimes I put a little bit of corn flour in there just to make it thicken up. And then I'll put in some cream at the end to make a creamy chicken curry.
brilliant.
And then serve it with some plain rice, and away you go.
Brilliant. No, thank you, Dave. I really appreciate it. I think that was very useful for the students. And yeah, new perspective. Let's keep it going.
Right. And we should give it the occasional stir. So getting close now. We've added the cream. A few stirs.